And 3, 2, 1. All right, we're back. Take 2.
Take 2. Yes. So you guys don't know, but we did this yesterday, and I woke up at 3 a.m. realizing that I did some wrong math, and I left out a big portion of what I wanted to talk about. So I messaged her at 3 a.m. and she got back to me and said she'd redo it. So this is time 2.
It's totally fine. I wake up
big
at
applause for Monica for doing
Hey,
that.
my pleasure. It's the least I can do. I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you constantly dealing with my screwed up messages where I'm calling you constantly going,
Your
why is
nervousness.
this happening, Sean?
Yeah. No, you're not alone. You're not alone on that.
I
for sure.
know. So what I will touch base with, so we were talking about GameStop and all the shit that's going on. And basically you said, I just want to make sure that people are aware of certain things. And I'm really excited. I think everyone's really going to enjoy this. And I'm looking forward to it. I know I watched, last night's episode. I literally watched the minute that I hung up with you. I sat down, I went over it and I was like, holy crap, so good. So bonus features, we will make sure that I clip it out. I will edit it and I will stick it on at some point. But
so you can do that. You can pull that out.
I can do that. Yeah.
Okay.
I can just start scratching things out and scrubbing it. And we
I did some wrong math and I just don't want that in there.
Absolutely. So let's start and hit me. Let me know what is going on with you, Mr. Sean.
Okay, so in the media right now, GameStop's a big deal, and it has to do with short selling. And the media kind of trying to portray it as it's short selling. It's something that got out of hand, but it's really not that. It's a big deal because it is a big deal, but they're trying to me, kind of get out of it a little bit, which that's what they'll do. But I just want everyone to know first off that this is a problem that we started fighting back in 2003, which actually stems from 9/11 because there were certain individuals who nobody's ever found their names, but they put something called put options on the airlines that were involved in the going into the towers. Now that would show foreshadowing or pre-knowledge of that event, knowing that their stock price is going to tank. Put options are much like short selling, where you want the stock price to go down to profit.
Okay.
That's what short selling is. Short selling, you want the stock price to go down for a profit and you make a profit on it. And I'll explain how that works. Put options, the difference with a put option versus short selling is options have time limits. And short selling, the way I understand it, doesn't usually have a time limit. So with GameStop, they might have had options, not short selling necessarily, because it sounds like there was a time limit that these guys had to cover that position or they had to get out of it. And so what they did is they trapped them in that position and then made them pay premium dollar rather than make money. Okay. So what short selling is, in the very most simple terms, and I'm not going to use brokers and dealers and stock market talk. I'm going to use everyday language so that everybody can understand exactly just the premise of it. Okay. So let's pretend it's June 1st. Summertime's coming up, and just go with the premise, even though it's stupid, but just go with the premise.
I got it. I got the weed you're pulling. I'm going. Let's do it.
It's June 1st and summertime's here, and your community loves to float rubber duckies, little rubber duckies on the lake. They love to float them. They're just, your whole community's about that. So you don't have any rubber duckies, but your neighbor has a ton of rubber duckies sitting in his garage. He from past seasons, whatever, he's just got a ton of rubber duckies and he's not doing anything with them. They're just sitting there. So you go next door and you say, hey, can I borrow 100 of those rubber duckies? And I promise I'll get them back to you November 1st. Promise to you, get them back to you November 1st. And the guy says, okay. He goes, but I want $15 a month as a rental fee. And you say, okay, I'll pay that. So then you take those rubber duckies, those 100 rubber duckies, and you go down to the lake and you sell them for $20 a piece. Now you've sold them for $20 a piece. Now you're paying him 15, but one duck covers 1 month. Okay. So you're paying a little. So now you got the rubber duckies. You sold all your rubber duckies at $20 a piece. And then at the end of summer, when the rubber duckies are not a big thing and your local Walmart's having a sale on them, you go and you buy the rubber duckies for $5. and then you buy 100 rubber duckies at $5 a piece, and you return them to your neighbor. But you still made $15 per ducky.
Okay.
That's short selling.
Got it.
And that's they call that legitimate, but I'll tell you why it's not legitimate. Is because in the stock market, let's apply that to the stock market. Now that I gave a general
Yes.
application, Microsoft is $100 a share. You think it's going to go down in price because you've been reading their filings and you just don't like what they're doing, and you think the price is going to go down to $50 a share. So you go to your broker and you say, I'd like to borrow 1,000 shares of Microsoft. So you take that 1,000 shares and you go out and you sell them on the market for $100 a piece. Now you have $100,000 in your bank account, and you pay your broker interest for however long you keep that short position open. Could take 3 months for it to go down to $50. If you want to hold it open that long, you pay interest for 3 months. Okay. So it finally goes to $50 a share. Now you take some of that take $50,000 and you go out and you buy 1,000 shares of Microsoft, and then you return them to your broker. Just like you did with the ducks.
Got it.
Borrowed them, sold them, then bought them back at a cheaper price, and then gave them back. Okay, what the difference is with stock market is your brokerage house is the one collecting the interest. Well, you have to ask yourself, where did they get that 1,000 shares of Microsoft? Because they didn't get them from Microsoft. They didn't get them from the company. They took them out of your account or this guy's account or this guy's account that they were sitting there dormant. They haven't traded them for a while. So they pull them out of that account and then they loan them to you, and then they collect the interest. You don't even know the shares are gone. Mm-hmm. Nobody's even told you. You've not been notified. So what happens, oftentimes companies have something that they want to vote on, and you being a shareholder, you have voting rights, which means you have the right to vote on what's going into the company. You're a part owner. What happens when they've taken your shares, loaned them to this guy, and now there's a vote? You don't even know your shares are gone. So who has the voting rights?
So would it be the broker that would be a liaison between you and?
What should happen is there should be a written agreement. Hey, we'd like to borrow your shares. And maybe they do this now. They didn't do it back in the day when I was doing this. They didn't do it then. Maybe they do it now. Like, hey, we're going to loan your shares to this guy. That means you are willfully giving up your voting rights for as long as this guy has them. And this guy only has them for a little bit because he went out and sold them on the market. You see what I'm saying? So yes. the voting rights go with the shares. So you're saying I'm willing to take interest payments on those shares and give up my voting rights until they get returned. Mm-hmm. Okay. But that isn't the way that it's been done as far as I know. I got out of the market because it's so screwed up. I won't go near it. I can make a ton of money right now, but it's blood money. I can't do it. And I probably should. I'm probably stupid, but that's how you lose your integrity. If you make little.
Well, you don't want, I mean, if it's something that's going to keep you up at night, there's no point in doing it. If it's not fun, don't do it.
If you know it's wrong, you know it's wrong.
Absolutely.
Or you know that, somebody's got to lose for me to win, and I don't like that. So go ahead.
So explain where Robinhood came in on this.
So Robinhood, what they did was, and if you listen to the news, they'll tell you that there were 140% more shares on the market.
Yes.
Okay. Now that's not normal short selling. What I explained to you was normal, legitimate short selling. Correct. That's something called naked short selling. And that's what me and the group that I've been working with for the last since 18 years have been fighting. And let me tell you something. No three-letter agency, I'm talking the FBI, the Securities Exchange Commission, the Department of Justice, nobody has helped us. All they've done is push us out and suppress us. That's all. So all your regulatory bodies. Now, there's one thing that could be true. If you have a long-term sting operation or a long-term investigation, that could warrant them not doing anything, because literally this criminal cabal is global. So it could take 20 years to investigate these guys, like literally to get all the connections, to get all this stuff. But as far as we can see right now, every single person, every media outlet, every politician, everybody just pushed us out, pushed us away, like forgive the term, not to be offensive, like we were the redheaded stepchild. Just get out of our face,
get the shit out of here. Yeah
There's a guy named Matt Taibbi. He writes for Rolling Stone, and I don't know if he still writes for Rolling Stone, but he wrote for a while. And he said basically, he goes, there's 3 topics I won't touch: the Israel-Palestine conflict, immigration, and the CMKM diamond stock scandal. Because if you start talking about any one of those 3, you're fucked within minutes. I mean,
and
so
you are part of one of those.
we got lumped into the Israel-Palestine conflict. I mean, let's think about that for a minute. And that's why we've been so suppressed. That's why we've been so pushed down. And but I think that the Robin Hood scandal is the doorway in which this is all going to come out. So that's why I wanted to do this, so that everybody can understand. There's two things at play here. That either because we're still at war. I know that in the background for ours, we're still fighting. There's still things going on. So that could be a legitimate still part of the war. But the other thing that it could be, and I'm going by the names here on the thing, GameStop's a company that, I mean, literally is out on its way out anyways. That's like a from 2003 company.
It's like a
really,
Nintendo and an Xbox. I mean,
kinda.
it's like, yeah.
But symbolically, GameStop means if they've actually corrected everything in the background and they just have to like bring it into the public, and it's going to create some pain, but they have to bring it into the public in a way that the public can understand what's happening. GameStop means this is the end. We're killing this game, this fraud game. We're killing it. And they're doing it with Robin Hood, who steals from the rich and brings to the poor, which would be the end outcome. It wouldn't be the surface right now. The surface right now, Robin Hood's the bad guy. And, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But,
oh, yeah. If you have a chance to listen to Dave Portnoy, he's with Barstool Sports. He's been all over the news. In fact, he was on with Chris Cuomo. He was on, I mean, all these different news outlets. And he actually sat down and broke it down a little bit for, you know, he was basically saying it's criminal. You know, Wall Street is criminal. No matter how you do it. And he said, he goes, if you play the stocks, make sure that you have money. It's no different than going in and gambling at the casino.
It's a casino.
That's exactly what it is. When you walk in, that money is gone. You already had a plan of making sure that that money is gone by the end of the night, but you're going to have a hell of a good time. It's all a game. He goes, but what they did is this is the first time where billionaires actually got nervous. They flipped the switch on them. You know, they got 1,000 people together and said, we're not taking this shit anymore. We're going to have fun with this, and we're going to expose them for the dirty bastards that they are. And what happened is Robin Hood went, no, we got to put a stop to it. Where they've never put a stop to the billionaires making more billions, but they've stopped the average Joe middle class people from going ahead and upping it into a different class. That's the shitty thing, is they've never stopped the people that had too much money. You know what I mean?
When a billionaire does it, it's an investment strategy.
Correct.
When the little guy does it, it's a manipulation of the markets.
Absolutely. So it's theft.
So let me explain to you the CMKM diamond stock fraud. It happened on the penny markets. And kind of our theory is they were using the penny markets to hone their skills to do it in the bigger markets. Because this happened 18 years ago. So they were using it to find all the flaws, ins and outs on the penny markets. They're kind of the wild, wild west. There's not as much regulation on it. And so they can nobody's watching it so much. So they could practice there.
If anyone has a chance, watch Wolf of Wall Street. It'll tell you. Jordan Belfort, he's the king of it.
Great movie. Yeah. Also, The Big Short is a great one. It's similar in nature to what's taking place and how they've done this for years, and they don't change anything. So what happened was there's something called death spiral financing. And what happens is big banks, offshore banks generally, would find companies that have value, that have a product, that have land, like mining, or they have something that they have an actual product. They come in and pretend to be the good guy. Look, hey, we want to help finance you. We saw what you got. I think this is really great, man. We'd love to partner up with you. However, there's going to be some goals you have to meet, and if you can't meet those goals, then we're going to actually the penalty is we're going to take stock from your company, because we have to know that you're going to perform. We have to know, and seems completely legit, right? Okay, yeah, I agree. Sign on the dotted line. So now you meet your goal, and you go and you meet your goal, and you press release it, and your stock price goes down. And so now you haven't met that goal. Stock price needs to be a nickel by this date. You met all your goals. You got the news. You should be at 6 cents a share, no problem. You go down to 2.5. How'd you go to 2.5 shares? How'd you go to 2.5? And then you're like, okay, well, I don't know, something happened, and you just go, and then you do it again, and now you need to be at 10 cents a share, and you only hit 6, because what they're doing is they're selling electronic shares into the market and taking away supply and demand. So you can't get,
You'll never be able to reach your goal.
No, you can't reach it because they're selling shares that don't exist, and so your supply and demand, and so your stock price is going down. And then investors that don't know what's going on think they're getting it. They're like, oh, this is a buying opportunity, who believe in the company, and so pretty soon it's called seller boxing. They box you into the seller to where you can't do anything, and pretty soon your price per share is 0001 per share. That's what, when you had a 5 cent a share stock. That's naked short selling. So what we did, we pretended to be one of those companies. We had value, we had land mass, we had all that stuff, but we pretended to be floundering. Got these guys to finance us, give us financing. Then we bought all of our stock back, all of it, all the outstanding shares, all the issued shares. We bought them back, put them in trust, and watched 1 million shares trade the next day. And these aren't accurate numbers. I'm just giving because for simplicity. Okay. Then the next day we watched another 500,000 trade. Then we watched another 2 million trade. Then you watch 5 million trade. We have all the shares. How are you selling all these shares? Where are you getting them? So we let them do it. And then the shareholders were encouraged, go out and buy those shares. Buy them all up. Buy as much as you can. They ended up selling 2 trillion shares above what was issued. My understanding, maybe it wasn't a 2 trillion above, maybe it was 2 trillion total, but they ended up having a big naked short position of shares that don't exist. So what we
sounds like they should have gone to the neighbor and asked him for some duckies.
Right? So what we did was, and this was spearheaded by a guy named Robert Mayhew. He was on the board of directors, right-hand man to Howard Hughes. Yeah, you might in the movie The Aviator, I think was what you said. Yeah, I'm sure his name's dropped in there, but if you just did a search on Robert Mayhew, you would see that he was the right-hand man to Howard Hughes and did all of his business dealings. Howard Hughes is actually the guy everybody hears the Illuminati. He's one of the first guys to expose them, because he couldn't break into that inner circle. He had a better product with the right price, and he could never get contracts because it was such a closed group. So he started to figure out, he said, this isn't right. This isn't a free market. This is something else. And he's one of the guys. And that's why he was so weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, probably had people want to kill him all day long. So
he would have done great in this pandemic.
Right. So now they have this huge short position out there that we know that they have. And so Robert Mayhew is brilliant. This guy is brilliant. So he says, you know what? Let's have a big party for all the shareholders. We appreciate our shareholders so much. We're going to have a big party in Las Vegas. And we're going to announce, and then it leaked, that they're going to be announcing that they're giving a 10-cent dividend. Now, we own all the shares. So to announce a 10-cent dividend, we don't have to really pay on that 10 cents a share for the shares we have locked up, because there are shares. But now the brokerages are on the hook for for all the fake shares. They have to pay the dividend of 10 cents a share. Now, let's say they have 2 trillion shares out there. That's $200 billion that they have to pay. But that's just the first dividend. If they don't go out and start buying those shares up and get those fake shares off the market, we're going to issue another one. And then they're going to have to pay it again until they clean up the shares. Now, what happens when they go out on the market and they try to buy the shares? They have to buy them from guys like me who know what the hell's going on. And I'm not selling until they hit $5. So they did what Robinhood did. They shut it down. They shut everything down. They said, if you give that dividend, we're going to charge you with market manipulation, and we're not going to let you do that. And so Robert Mayhew, as I understand it, met with 46 brokers, pulled them in a room in Las Vegas, which I don't know if we still have a room with our name on it, but we had a room in Vegas with our name on it, a boardroom. And said, look, this is what we have. What are you going to do about it? You're all going to jail if you don't fix this. So the agreement was they pay a settlement, and they fix the markets. and they've never paid us. They were supposed to pay us in 2007, and then it got moved into somewhere, and it's been a battle trying to find it ever since. So we've been trying to find it because it was collected. Robert Mayhew died, and so but nobody's given up, and it's been they're still working on it, but it's tacked away. It was put away because they said, we're not going to pay you right now because these guys, you've just taken it from the biggest players on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
And that makes you a mark, and that makes it a little dangerous for you. So we're not going to pay you just yet. But then Robert Mayhew died, and then I'm assuming that had something to do with. Then we ended up with a $3.8 trillion lawsuit against the Securities Exchange Commission, Leslie Hakala, and it gets so convoluted and so weird. Nothing about this. The guys that are working on this now, business guys that issued stock before, had their own companies, done this. They're looking at this. They're going, none of this makes sense. None of it. No, they're generally accepted business practices, and none of it's here. And there's no reason for this.
So when this GameStop thing happened, were you like, yes, finally, this is maybe a doorway for us, or maybe a little scotch for us to kind of sneak in there and be like, hey, look, this happened before.
We could be the hammer. We could be the hammer.
Yeah. So were you that feeling that way whenever it happened?
I like I said yesterday, I didn't even know for 3 days because I'm taking care of my mom and dad, and I'm not there all the time, but it takes me away enough that I'm not involved with a lot of stuff. And so when I found out about it and I understood what it was, I'm like, that's us. But it's exactly. So I'm like, well, maybe this is disclosure, but it seems like it's still kind of, I don't know. I still don't see a lot about it, so I'm wondering if we're going to be the hammer. That's why I want to do this, so that to disclose exactly how these guys have been doing. They never cleaned up the market. That's why I think that happened, because they never fixed it. Or if they did fix it, then this is the way to introduce it to the public.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Also, too, you have big names that are actually thinking this is shit. So that's working in your favor. I mean, Dave Portnoy is ginormous. I mean, he started Barstool Sports in his parents' basement, and now he's a millionaire, playing with money. And, the good thing about this is it's bringing to light certain things to where Wall Street wants to keep poor people poor and their friends, their rich friends, even richer. This is our game. We're going to borrow a little bit of your money, of your 401k or whatever, and we're going to let you dabble a little bit. We're going to let you get your feet a little wet. We're going to let you play with it, but we're not going to let you get too involved or too high up there, because you're not at the caliber that we are. Well, now basically they just pulled their pants down. Instead of zipping their fly down, they literally just dropped trowel and made an ass out of themselves. Is essentially what happened.
And that's why I think the Reddit group had some help. I don't think it was just a couple of traders that came up with this idea. And I think it was very systematically put into place, because these guys had to go to their brokerage houses and tell their broker, you're not to loan out any of my shares, because that gives them liquidity. They can then just borrow those shares, and then they have shares to play with, and it creates liquidity. So they said, you cannot borrow our shares. So that was organized on the front end. That's something, that had to be in place before they did this. So it's very systematic.
People like that don't get more involved in certain things, because I tell you what, you can't even throw a surprise party for Aunt Bertha without somebody throwing in the mix. And these guys collectively went probably on the same day, had a plan, group chat, what have you. Nobody was of the wiser, and they got shit done. Like, that is incredible. 5 people, 10 people, you're not talking a small amount. There's 1,000 people that they all went, this day is the day, we're going to do it. And nobody said a fucking word.
That was our group.
Nobody said a word.
Yep. That was our group.
That is incredible. It had to have been planned for years, though, because I mean, this had to have been in the making. Probably, I'm sure, after Trump was elected or something, they probably thought, we're going to bring this shit down.
Well, that's why it could be the hammer. The one thing that so it could be the thing that that introduces to the public, because this involves everybody. Here's why these guys are monsters, and they're this is why they're evil. I mean, and evil's evil. If there's anything I can impart on everybody, evil isn't just kind of bad, just kind of it's like what your vision of evil is like. Oh my gosh, they'll bankrupt everybody to put them on the street so long as they're in a penthouse. They don't care if grandma's eating. Patrick Burns, the CEO of Overstock, also was involved with the CMKM diamonds. And one of his things was, why did I get involved in this fight? Is because I probably, as my company, could have been okay and we could have done all right, but because his company was naked shorted into the ground too, and he won all his legal battles. He won and he got restitution, but he and I don't know if you've seen him. He's very vocal lately. Patrick Burns is, which is weird timing. So that's why it's not so weird timing. But he said, I could probably done well, but I can't sleep at night knowing that grandma's eating cat food so that some broker on Wall Street can get a new Lamborghini. Mm-hmm. He said you can't, and that's the same reason why I can't do. But he's good. He's got a lot of money.
Yeah, or the Speaker of the House can have $12 ice cream in an inordinate amount in her
$25 ice cream.
Oh, $25. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Who would have known? Yeah. That's interesting.
So it's pretty disgusting. It's pretty disgusting, the gap between, and people they really would like just Hunger Games. That's what they would like, is Hunger Games. We talked about that yesterday. And the thing about it is, and I remember being appalled at the time. People, I love that movie. I love that. How could you love that movie? They're telling you exactly what they want to do to you. Mm-hmm. And they're like, it's the greatest movie ever. I don't know. And I guess at the end, I've never watched them, but I guess at the end, the plebes somehow come out on top. But it takes a long time to do. It
takes a revolution in order to do it.
Yeah, if we could just get that done and get back to living, that would be great.
That would be awesome.
Like that.
Yeah.
So
one of my clients, I'll never forget, used to come in very, very well known on TV. My mom did his hair for years, and he always had that look on his, and he could wipe his ass with $100 bills. And as soon as I saw Hunger Games, I thought of him, because I remember him saying one time, "Poor people are just so dirty." And I was thinking, wow, that's evil. Like, to me, that's evil. That is just complete shit. And people like that, those are the ones that are taken care of. Those are the ones. And don't get me wrong, he was a hard worker. He busted his ass to get where he was, but he forgot, that he shits behind his shoes just like everybody else. And that's how he started,
Right.
That's what kills me. So
it's a mentality. It's a mentality that develops. I mean, I just heard somebody today. I was listening to an interview, and they said the best way to gauge a man's integrity is to give him money and see what he does with it. Mm-hmm. Like to make him rich and powerful and see what he does with it. And they were referring to Trump at the time in this interview or whatever, because they're saying this guy has all of he could have just ignored all this. He could have just ignored it all.
And even if, like we talked yesterday, even right or left, I am going to say this, and I try and tell my clients this, because there's really literally no denying it. The man, believe it or not, is a good businessman. And you want to know why I know he's a good businessman? I mean, his wife, God bless her. I am a huge Melania fan. I always have been. The minute that he got into presidency, I thought she was, I loved, everyone was pissed off whenever she had the Christmas tree incident, where she was like, "I don't give a shit about Christmas trees. There's kids living in cages. Like, I want to be a part of I'm an immigrant. I want to be a part of that." And my clients are going, "Oh God, she's with him and this and that." I'm like, number one, she came from shit. And number two, she shits in a golden toilet. You don't. Mm-hmm. I don't. They can continue to live like that for the rest of their lives and not give a fiddler's fart about what anybody thinks. But they chose to run for presidency. They chose to do that because the better he does, or the better we do, the better he does in business. He's just a good businessman. That's basically
it. People need to understand that there's always this little part of me in the back of my mind, until this is finished, You know, that is he the Antichrist that will emerge at some point? Because once he's got everything on, once he's got the world, does that flip? I
Well,
I
and
don't
what's
think.
next? So that's what guys like Trump, they want it all.
See,
I
and
mean,
that's,
how far is
yeah.
he going to go? He's already made president. If he had a second term of presidency, I mean, what guys like that, once they get to the top, they want to go to the stars. When they run out of ladder, they want you to
Well,
build them.
he's already got Space Force.
It
I
is.
mean, but I think really, if I were to say what his goal is to get his face on Mount Rushmore, and the only way that he can do that is if he actually makes a success of all this.
Okay.
So that would be my thought. Here's the thing: if he's really, if the global elite really hate him, I mean, have you seen it? Did you see his speech at Davos back?
Yes.
And those aren't those. He didn't bring the ideals that Davos stands for, and he didn't talk about ideals that Davos stands for, as far from what I can tell. And so, to me, hold on, I lost my train of thought. I went with the Davos thing, and then oh yeah, if they hate him as much as really is being portrayed, and it's like really, if everybody really hates him, and that's not, there's all actors, half of them are politicians in Hollywood are all actors, so you got to put that in your head that this could all be a show. But if he's really hated the way that he is, then he has put not only himself in jeopardy, Melania in jeopardy, Barron, all of his kids,
His whole
everybody,
family.
his whole family. I've heard, and I don't know if it's true or not. A guy named Juan Sebastian, who I like, but he just came out of nowhere, and I don't know. I never trust that necessarily. But he made the comment that before Trump did this, he sat his whole family down, all the kids, and sat the whole family down and said, this puts us all in jeopardy if we don't succeed. We're all dead. Or do we agree as a family that we're going to do this? And I guess it was a resounding yes, and we're going to fix this country. And so if that's true, my sister, I bet, yep.
There you
This
go.
happened yesterday.
Right on time. But like I said yesterday, and you kind of sent me down a rabbit hole last night where I was, looking at, I don't know if anybody ever follows him, but Linwood, he was huge on Parler. He was on certain things. And when I had mentioned Camelot, you had brought up JFK, and I said Camelot, and it was a reference to the JFK family, and that's what, supposedly that was JFK's favorite book or whatever. But
which I've never read.
Yeah, which that's what the Trump dynasty kind of reminds me of. It's a break off of the Kennedy family. The Kennedys were very close and tight knit. Excuse me, and I hope that it doesn't end that way. I really truly do. I hope that we don't have this constant thing of, this revolving door of these people coming in with good intentions, and then it turns to shit. And then they have good intentions, and then it turns to shit, and then they disappear. And then
I think this is why it's so chaotic. That's why this is so chaotic, because it's not. This is. I don't want to say vendetta, but it's what's the word? It's comeuppance for these guys, because for the assassination of Kennedy, it's vindication. That's what I was looking for. Vindication for the assassination of Kennedy.
You really truly believe that?
Robert Mayhew was friends with the Kennedys. Trump was friends with the Kennedys. That they were friends. So this is this is what I've understood the whole time, probably since 2004. That this is all of that's coming, and everything that you're going to learn, and everything that's happening. This is because for vindication.
Wow.
So that's really so I really think everything's been planned for, but it's high stress. I mean, it's high stress. This is
God. I told you last night, if it wasn't for TikTok, I would have been in deep shit. And Tiger King, because I was sitting there thinking, the quarantine even got me thinking about certain things. You really have to be of strong mind when people tell you that you can't do something. It's like putting a piece of cake in front of me and saying, Monica, don't touch that. No matter what you do, you can't touch that. Or, if you don't touch that, you're saving lives. So you're thinking, okay, I'm not going to touch it, but it's something that I really want, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
Talking about work, I'm healthy. I should be able to do that, but I can't. And during this quarantine, I found myself going down into that deep, dark place where all of these other people, I'm sure, were joining me in the same exact dark place. And you realize, if I come out of this and it's not as bad, I'm going to be so pissed off. And then I realize I'm not the only one that's going to be really pissed off if it doesn't get as big, or the bad man didn't come. And then, but then you're holding on to this big old bag of fury and there's nothing you can do with it. And that's where people are coming from. But I can see where people were trying to put trust into. I'm not a fan of Fossey. I think Dr. Fossey is a dipshit, and I can't.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm putting myself out there. I don't need more conservative hate. People, don't send me shit. I get it. It's my thing. But
And that's America. You have the right to feel
I
that
have
way.
the right to my opinion.
Yeah.
However, some people don't agree with it. But what I'm trying to say is, during this quarantine and everything, is I can see where the left were just looking. They wanted something to blame. They needed somebody to blame. And they weren't going to look in their own backyard at their own people. They had to go for the big orange man, is what people say.
They needed mail-in voting. That's what they needed.
And
That's what Fauci was for, and that's what they needed. Mail-in voting to create the debacle that is. Yep. And Trump.
I truly believe that.
Oh, I do too. I
truly believe that. I didn't mean to go on a rant about. I was trying to make a point, and it just turned to shit on me. But but I saw myself going down that hole, going, why? Maybe I'm not a conservative. Maybe I am not a Republican. Maybe because I don't agree with what's going on. But then when you start going down and start doing your research, like you told me, start reading, and don't trust certain websites. Do your own research. Come to your own conclusion. And I took a page out of your book. And that's what I was trying to say, is I want to thank you for that, because it opened my eyes to a lot of things that I was willing to allow people to tell me to think. And that's not right.
Yeah, it's a problem. And it's called, that's why have you ever heard the phrase mockingbird media? Mm-hmm. Because you become a mockingbird. You heard it, and people think they're educated now because somebody over here said it on the news, the talking heads, and you think that, and people think they can trust the news, and so they think they're educated while they're sitting here spitting all this stuff. When if you go out and you look at, if it wasn't for conspiracy theorists going, I don't know, and medical doctors that didn't agree with it, saying, the COVID or whatever molecule or whatever it is smaller than them. It's like throwing a rock through a chain link fence. It's not going to do anything. And if people didn't come out and say that, you would think the news was right. Mm-hmm. And they're not right. The masks don't do anything. That's why they're saying you should wear 2 now. Mm-hmm. How far are people going to go with that and not realize it?
I did have that, though. If I go to a place, I don't think somebody's a piece of shit for not wearing a mask or wearing a mask. I don't have an opinion. I genuinely think you need to do what is important for you and for your family. Think for yourself. If you are sick, by God, you shouldn't be out anyway. Call me. I will go and shop for you. I will do. Mm-hmm. I took care of my parents the first month going, but this is a good example. Is during this quarantine, people over the age, the shelter in place, over a certain age, over 65, social media was their only outlet. That was the only thing that they could get. My father, who has dementia, came to me, showed up at the house, and I'm going, what are you doing here? He goes, well, Facebook said it's over with. What? And he's like, yeah, I saw on Facebook so-and-so were out, so it must be okay. And I'm thinking, how many more others are using Facebook as their only news source? They're not finding or researching anything out on their own. How many have done that?
I have a friend. He's a manager, or not the manager. Sorry, it's editor, the head guy at Chico Enterprise Record, and and he'll scold me every now and again because I post it, because I'll read something and I like might agree with like this part of it, and I don't
Yeah.
really, I just see the part that I agree with, and I'm like, I'll share it. And I don't really, especially now with time, I'm not that big of a researcher anymore, so I don't deep dive on a lot of this crap. I already know my opinions about a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
But if I post something that he doesn't, he'll call me on it, which I appreciate. Like sometimes I'm not always thinking about the influence I might have on somebody, because I understand this. That's why even last night at 3 a.m, I wake up, I'm like, you know what? Yesterday's show, if people really are paying attention to this stuff, I got to make sure that I actually communicate this properly and not in a vague way, because I understand what I'm saying, but I'm not, I don't always take the time to explain it well. So I want to make sure that I am, just for your audience, for whoever's watching this, because that's really my duty. But Mike, my buddy Mike calls me on that sometimes on Facebook. And so it's good though.
I'm kind of curious, how many friends and family have you lost on social media?
Oh shit. Here's the thing. I used to get like on my birthday, I used to get like 100, 120, happy birthdays and I think now Facebook doesn't put up that I have a birthday. Facebook makes it look like nobody looks at me, nobody watches me, I got like last year I got happy birthdays because I actually put on my Facebook page, today is my birthday. Facebook won't tell you today's my birthday. I just want to see how many people are going to say happy birthday. And then I got like 60, happy birthdays. But the previous year, 0. Not a single happy birthday, not a single, and that's not, I don't need the accolades or anything. It tells me how much Facebook throttles me and only shows like 10 people I literally only have the same 10 people even like my stuff. But I don't lose friends on my friends list.
That is
Just
crazy.
nobody, they just block it so nobody sees it. Nobody, you probably see it because you're in my private group, and so you probably see my posts. Probably anybody that's in both will see it. But outside of that, literally, it's like the same 10 people every time. So I'm
when it's something really big, Vic Whack. We have a mutual friend, Vic Whack, and we call her Vic Whack. I'm not going to give you her last name, but Vic, she will message me and she'll be like, "Did you see what Sean ended up putting up? Did you see?" And of course, I'm on there. I'm like, "Oh God, what's going on and what's happening?" Talk
Vicky,
me down off the ledge, Sean.
Vicky, Monica said that you say very nice things about me last night. I just really appreciate that so much, Vicky, because I just love you. We've always got along, and it's just, thank you for the kind words, Vicky, and thank you,
she's
Monica,
amazing.
for coming.
Absolutely. Yeah. So is there anything else you want to plug, promote, anything you want to say, anything you want?
I still think we'll end up with a Trump presidency. I don't know if it will happen. I'm not even kidding. I don't know if anybody pays attention, and the news probably doesn't cover it, but the White House has not been lit at night.
No, it's been dark.
Dark. They don't light it up at night. And there are people that are saying, well, that's normal. That's not normal. That's not normal. There's also a big structure, a big white structure that's being built in front of the White House. I know. Now, here's the thing. Here's the problem with this. I don't live in Washington, D.C. I can't go look at it myself. Anything can be put on the internet, and but there's been some pictures posted, and there's been some, and so I'm still looking at that. But what I don't understand is, why is there still military at the White House?
And they're bringing in more.
Why?
And also, too, I don't know if it's true or not. I don't know if I saw this on news sources. Mar-a-Lago is ginormous right now. I mean, that's the hub. That's the hard place. And I don't know if it's true or not. It hasn't been confirmed whether or not, but supposedly Air Force One was there. I don't know if that's true or not.
And you got to understand.
I don't know.
The reason that I can actually make some decisions that I make is because I have context. A lot of people, I could say stuff, and people that I'm saying it to don't have context. I have context, and I have background and understanding that the United States was turned into a corporation. I understand that what the all caps name separates and makes you a corporation. And I understand the agreements and the contracts that have been put into place to keep people enslaved. People don't have that context. So when you say it, they're like, yeah, whatever. I think they are dissolving the corporation, and I don't know. I mean, we've only been friends on Facebook for what, like a year and a half, 2 years, maybe. anybody that's followed my Facebook page for the last, since I don't know how long, I always will make posts, especially when back when I would drink, back when I would drink a lot. I don't drink very often anymore, but back when I would drink, I would go on rants about the original and organic Constitution for the United States. And that was the 1776 version, ratified in 1789 or whatever. And then we have it was replaced by the Constitution of the all caps name United States. So the original organic Constitution for the United States, the United is lowercase and States is capitalized, not the big block United States. That's the corporation that's listed on probably not anymore if it's being dissolved. It used to be listed on Dun and Bradstreet, which is the stock market. You could go on there, you could look it up, United States Corporation. And that is how they've controlled. That's how they bypassed the Constitution. Constitution's still in place, but they got everybody through contracts. And what does the devil do? How does the devil get you? He signs you on the dotted line. And that's what we did.
And see, another thing too is I've never seen it to where, the Hodge twins. I mean, all of these conservatives are being silenced now. Why? Why? Nobody on The View is being shut down. No. They haven't shut Joy Behar down, who is the biggest toad I ever met in my entire life. And she has spit nothing but, contempt and hate for somebody that doesn't follow her same agenda, and calls them stupid. And some of the most greatest people she has talked down to. And yet we're going to allow that to slide, but you're not going to. So the people that are being silenced, either they're right, and they want them to shut up because they're actually picking up speed, or something else. I don't know, but it's just I've never seen this
tension.
Correct. Well, they don't want people thinking for themselves. They're like, don't look at them. Look at me. Keep your eyes on me. Focus on me. Don't look at them. And the only way to get rid of them is to silence them. And they tell you that. How do you get rid of it? You cut the tongue out. So
I mean, you really gotta look at life as contrast is the best. That's people are trying to get rid of contrast. Contrast is, you got the dark end of the spectrum and the light end of the spectrum, and you got all these colors in between if you want to go like for the rainbow. Now blue, right now it seems like blue is trying to convince everybody to be blue. You should just be blue. No, we need blue, just like we need red, just like we need orange, just like we need yellow, just like we need green. And if you mash them all together, all you get is this dirty gray.
Yeah.
That's not what life is ever meant to be. It's not how that should work at all. We have to respect all colors of the full spectrum. And once you can start seeing that, then life becomes this glimmering, like shimmering sunlight on the water. It's like, it's beautiful. It can be beautiful, but somehow.
But I've also had it to think of it this way. During this whole time, I don't care what anybody says. Trump brought it where being a patriot was something to be proud of for the first time in I don't know how long. And that's what I love.
Since the 80s, probably, I would say.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did the Trump train. I got made fun of for doing it. I got cast out of my friends groups because of it. And they thought it was stupid and insignificant and on and on and on. And you're just like the Hodge twins, or you're just like these people or whatever. But for the first time, I got to take my daughter to go do a Trump train. And that was the most patriotic thing I could ever think of in my entire life. And I'm 41 years old, and I thought it was amazing. And people are going, that is the dumbest freaking thing you could have ever done in your life. And I'm thinking, that's because you need to come on this side and see it just a scotch, just a little bit, or start your own, to believe in something so much or somebody,
I think we've almost forgotten that feeling.
We did.
And people don't know, even though they just don't get it. But if you experience it, then you're like, oh, it's kind of resonant. You resonate Absolutely. With it, and you're like, wow, that's really different than I thought. Like, or it's like kind of like when you don't want to, your friends like, want you to go to a party, and you're like, I don't want to go, and then you end up having a really good time when you didn't want to go. Right now, it seems like Americans are in the I don't want to go thing, except for the big Trump supporters. I've avoided being a MAGA guy and wearing the MAGA hat because what I'm here to do is just educate people about the Constitution and freedom, and that's more aligned with politics. So I just don't get into that right left thing, because I don't care. I believe your body, your choice.
Absolutely.
That if you, I don't think that, my personal opinion is like birth control or abortion shouldn't be used as birth control. I mean, I don't
Well,
think
yeah.
that your body, your choice means you pay for the abortion, and you don't put it on, you don't make insurance companies cover it for people, Christians who don't believe it, because now you're contributing to something you don't believe in. And so if you should be able to go to an insurance company that doesn't want to pay for that, if they don't want to pay for it, or the free clinic that taxpayers are paying for, and it shouldn't go past the first trimester. I don't, once the body,
So I'm
the
gonna
abortion thing, sorry, this is kind of off. Yeah.
no. If somebody who has a vagina, I'm literally gonna say this. I can tell you right now, if you have had more than, there is no reason in this day and age for you to have an unwanted pregnancy. There isn't. Condoms are available. There is birth control available. There's free birth control available. There's everything, but there's no money in that.
Mm-hmm.
You could go to the Planned Parenthood. There's not a whole lot of money in preventing a pregnancy. There's a lot of money in terminating a pregnancy
and selling body
that's the
parts
problem.
and
Selling the
stem
body
cells
parts.
and
Yes. So that's the problem that I have. However, you can go get condoms, you can go get birth control. It is available to you. There is no reason for that. Now, if you have had more than 1 or 2 abortions, 1 is enough. But if you've had anything over than that, you should not be responsible for your own vagina. You just shouldn't.
I
Or
can't
give
say
it up
that.
for
I can't say
adoption.
that, but I just don't think anybody should pay for that.
Like,
She's
exactly.
yeah,
Exactly. It shouldn't be on somebody's dime. But if you're going to make stupid ass decisions, I think you should carry it to full term, and I think that you should give it up for adoption. It's the best thing that anybody could ever do, and it's the most selfless thing. So
and
that's where I stand.
the people that, and for the people that say, it's a life the minute it's conceived. Okay, let's look at it. And this may be offensive to some people, I don't know, but this is just kind of how I look at it. If you look at a housing project, that they come in and they grade the land out and they kind of form a cul-de-sac, and then they abandon the project, is that really a housing complex? It's not really a housing complex. It didn't get into, you didn't even
potential, but if you're wanting to back out, now's the time. Do it before the studs go in.
Yeah. You can't live. You're going to live on an empty lot. There's no shelter. It's not really a housing complex. So I think up until the trimester part, I think it's been, there's really not I don't know if there's, I think that's where that line should be drawn. Once you start to pour the foundation and put up the framing, now you're committed to that, I think.
Oh,
yeah.
As soon as the studs go up, you're committed to that bitch. I don't care what anybody says.
Yeah, I just try to put it in terms that are relatable. You know, rubber ducky.
Y'all are gonna have an 18-year mortgage, let me tell you, and longer.
That's
well,
great.
Hey, let's wrap this up. I want to tell you, absolutely, that's what I'm here for. I think it's great. I appreciate you coming on. I want everybody to know that you are the smartest person in this area I could think of, and I'm so glad that you came on and you explain it so well to where people will understand it, and people are going to appreciate that.
Okay.
They need somebody to explain it to them. So especially the ones that don't have time and or the resources in order to go out and find the information out for themselves. So I appreciate you, and thank you for letting me message you and tell you how I'm nervous, and you talked me down off the ladder and the wall and all the above. So I appreciate you.
Well, just keep in mind, I could still be wrong.
Hey, we all could. We totally all could. But you know what? I think that, like you said, we're in for some dark times, but at the end of this, we're all going to be better for it. So
I'm looking for the Super Bowl to be interesting.
Super Bowl is going to be interesting.
Well, the reason why is because you got a captive audience.
Yes.
And so when you have a captive audience, if there's something that needed to be done that you needed to have a fully captive audience, that might be a time that something like that happens.
Well, especially when Coke and Pepsi pulls out. So
February is going to be this.
Mm-hmm.
So just yes, be big ones, I think. So because my target date still is by April 1st that that Trump will be back publicly in could take all year. That's the other thing I understand. If you have to have a re-election, if something happens and goes that route, then it could take all year. But let's just see what happens by April 1st and go from there.
Everybody wants to know it's February 3rd right now, and if he comes out right, I tell you what, we're going to elect him. Something.
I never, ever. I don't even. I'm just doing this because I happen to understand some stuff. I want out of this as soon as this is done.
You're like, after this is over with, lose my number.
Yes, I just want to have a farm, and I want to own a health food store, and that's it.
I want to get a giraffe. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this up. I want to thank everybody for watching. We appreciate you. Again, you guys can find us on Facebook and Instagram under No Conditions. And you can always email me if you have any questions, concerns, or comments at noconditions2020@gmail.com. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'd appreciate it. And I want to thank Sean Schroeder for coming up and hanging out with me. And
we'll see you in 2 months.
You got it. 2 months. We'll be back.
2 months. Okay.
All right, everybody. Have a good night. Be kind to one another. Bye-bye.